Patricio Jones and Ricardo Martinez. It's great to be talking with you too. I mean, for you guys, for me, it's hearing about the Valadero days and growing up in the business. For me, you guys are legends in the game. So it's super awesome to be able to talk to you. And I think for our investor base and in the companies, it's important that people understand we wouldn't have got to where we are today without you guys, and to understand how we got here, I think would be very interesting for a lot of people. And if not, I just love hearing it again and again. So I appreciate your guys' time today. Perhaps Patricia and Ricardo, you could just quickly introduce yourselves, and then we have some questions we could run through.
Okay. My name is Jorge Patricio Jones, and I am Argentinian-born geologist, and I have been with the industry my whole life. I met Lucas and Adolf Landin, and from then on, it was a history of economic resources found and very, very exciting ride. And it hasn't finished yet.
Yes, thank you. I'm Ricardo Martinez. I'm San Juan born in Argentina. I was lucky enough to find the group and start working with Lucas and Adolf and Patricio, obviously back in the early 90s. And then in 93, we started over the bid for Veladero and started to work in Veladero in 94. And we went on to several success in exploration in different projects, but essentially Veladero was found back in 99. The whole 55, the discovery hole was drilled in at the end of the summer in 97, in 2002. And we were lucky enough to go back again to Vicuña, or what is now called Filo del Sol, Jose Maria, and several other targets in the whole region. So back again now, helping and trying to be again of use in the Argentine mining industry, and happy to join with comments and to help the understanding of all this history.
Thanks, Ricardo. Thank you, Patricio. I guess so. Patricio, the first endeavor with the lending group was meeting Lucas in '89, right, and then going on to form International Musto and getting a hold of Baja de Alumbrera. And then you guys moved from there to get the ground that became the Valadero discovery, and that's when Ricardo signed on in '93.
Yeah, exactly, Adam. Bajo de la Alumbrera was an undeveloped porphyry copper, which was tendered in the '92, and the geologist that was indicated to Lucas to do the trip and check the project got sick, was a friend of mine, and called me. So that's how I started, and eventually started to discuss the financing in New York. I remember some meetings we had in New York with the banks when the tequila crisis, Mexican originated crisis occurred in the middle 90s, and that made the financing more costly for Masto. And eventually the guarantees were very difficult to obtain. And at that stage, Masto decided to sell the remaining 50% of the project to Rio Algom North. Rio Algoma North developed Alumbrera. Having sold 100% of the project, and we immediately started on our second business in Argentina, which was Veladero.
Valadero has now turned out to what you thought it was going to be, and that was a 20 million ounce gold discovery. And you guys had to fend off Barrick and then be able to do a friendly deal with Homestake, but really was not wanting to sell that project. And I think if we fast forward to now, where we are in the district that you guys staked after selling Argentina Gold to Homestake, how did we get here? In between the El Indio Belt and Maricunga Belt, where no one was before, and what was the vision to go there and stake that big parcel of land, which led to 3 tremendous discoveries that obviously with Filo still growing. Just how did you get there? How did you want to go and take that ground?
We had an experienced team.
Mhm.
And Ricardo, as he just told you a few minutes ago, had stayed with Homestake, which was the purchaser of Veladero, and I had stayed with Adolf and Lucas, but really didn't have a project in carpet. And Adolf got together a group of investors at the Explora Hotel in the Atacama Desert of Chile and took us to visit Chuquicamata. And during that trip, invited Ricardo and myself. And one evening, which I remember, with very nice dinner and having drinks, he announced that he was putting together the dream team again to go for new discoveries in Argentina. And immediately the seed money to develop a third Argentinian company, which was called Desarrollo de Prospectos Mineros, was collected by Adolf there at the table, and there were some investors, most of them investors that have done very well with both Alumbrera and Veladero. So after that, our problem with Ricardo was, all this was very good and well-planned promotion, but we had to put some beef into the Desarrollo Prospectos Mineros. And Lucas had heard about a porphyry called Vicuña in the third region of Chile, which is about Copiapó, and that Cyprus had drilled the project and wanted to get out, couldn't find the potential.
Right.
So he sent me to see that, and that's how we came into Filo del Sol, in the sense that we went first through Chile to see this Vicuña porphyry, but then one morning I went up the hill to the edge of the border with Argentina, which was the highest point. And being early in the morning, the sun was coming from the east, from Argentina into Chile. So that's how we got the name of Filo del Sol. Is the illuminated edge of the mountain. Essentially, you could see that the project has a lot of potential. Well, because when you walk from Chile into Argentina, there is an oxide copper outcrop with chalcantite, which is a soluble copper sulfate, and that outcrops there, and you look north and goes.
Mm-hmm.
So the incredible thing, or the good thing that we did there, was to obtain the property.
Great story, yeah. Essentially, the little story about your dad raising money in a trip between Antofagasta and Calama on the plane, early morning, after having been in Santiago the previous night, is something that I always remember. He was going through the different sections of the plane with a little notebook and say, "Okay, how much you want to rent? How much you want to rent?" And when he was coming back, he laughed to me and Patricia, and he said, "You guys have the money you need to do the next company." And it was very hard times in Argentina, and I comment this because it's basically a situation pretty similar to what is today. This is the end of 2001 to the start of 2002, and we had 7 presidents in a week, or 5 presidents in a week. So there was a lot of economic disaster and financial crises, and that's essentially why Adolf and Lucas say, "Okay, when the times get tough, only the tough gets going. And that's in your grandfather book as an old saying. And that's what essentially you guys call now perseverance and staying and drilling and keeping on going, even in hard times in the markets, even in hard times in political situations in Argentina and so on. And that's why we always not only liked and loved to work with you guys, but also certainly admired that spirit. And that's what is paying off back again these days on Philo and Jose Maria soon and all that.